And good morning and welcome. Today is Thursday, April 14th, 2022. As we roll tape on this one, my name is Jay Cleveland Payne, bringing you what I like to call, because that's its name, things you might not have heard. And these are things you might not have heard, although most of today's things, you've probably heard of them. For today, which is the last thing, these things, news stories you might not have heard for the last day, which was yesterday, Wednesday. That's 24 to 30 hours of time kind of captured and things to talk about. Things for your water cooler, things for your remote work, things to get into, things to connect with other human beings, if you will. These are going to be today 7 stories. I'm going to try to crash 7 stories into this newscast, which is also odd because we're running behind because there's some things that I deemed really, really cool and important. Now, you, of course, deemed them important first because you, as the vast internet audience, had a chance to basically to tell us what stories were put, recommend some stories to talk to. We're going to give you 7 of what were the top 15 stories over the last 28 hours or so that were posted inside of our feeds. Things from all over the place, aggregated from various other spots that you vetted as interesting to talk about, or some of these things are breaking headline news. In fact, 3 stories yesterday dealt with that were in this range, dealt specifically with the shooter, the attacker in New York City. We'll get to that literally right now. More information about what we do around here can be found online at theconversationproject.com. Look for our sponsors page, look for our partnerships page. Help us keep this thing alive, if you will. Story number 1, obviously the top story, although this link was not the top story. The first link was when they actually released the name of Frank R. James as a suspect in the shooting. The one we're going with to start off with, the more important one, is the fact they found the Broadway subway shooter, Frank R. James, and he was in custody. Picked him up pretty quickly, pretty easily. In fact, I was in the car listening on the radio as they were doing an update on looking for him, waiting for the update for the, there's a 2 o'clock Eastern time, I think it was. Maybe it was 3 o'clock Eastern time, Central time. They were basically preparing for a update at the top of the hour. The news reporter had a top of the hour thing talking about the update on the way. And then they paused it and waited about 45 minutes because they literally caught the guy about 5 minutes after top of the hour. And then the details rolled in, and then it got even stranger in the process. Apparently, Mr. James, of course, we all know about the YouTube videos and all the craziness that went on those lines, can't arrest somebody for just posting crazy YouTube videos. He has to actually do something, and now he did something. The big thing was he was tipped off. All the video out there of him, all the stuff going on showing where he was, the police said they used that, and it used effectively to basically, eliminate his movements. He couldn't go very far because people saw him, and they were, tips and things coming up. The actual tip that got him caught was a Crime Stoppers tip called in by himself saying, I'm hanging out at this McDonald's in Brooklyn. When they got there, he wasn't at the McDonald's in Brooklyn, but he was just down the street, and somebody pointed out, yeah, he's over there. This whole thing's getting weirder and weirder and bigger, and we're going to go through a lot of incidents, a lot of evidence, a lot of stuff going on in the upcoming days, weeks, and all the way to the prosecution. He gave himself up without any incident and had no further weapons on him, apparently. So we will see how Mr. James will progress, what's going on. He has ties in like 5 or 6 different states. He's been arrested. He has a pretty extensive arrest record dealing with being in the New Jersey, New York area itself. This is not going to go lightly. This is going to be prosecuted to the heaviest extent. And one of the weirder things about this goes along with headline number 2, which was part of our teaser story from yesterday. Tucker Carlson, Jesse Waters say media will bury subway shooter story because person of interest is black. TheDailyBeast.com gave us that one. And this is where I'm about to not quite go off because we are running late today, but this is where there'll be some other commentary someplace to go in this because my feelings are just all over the place about this. Number 1, when this headline popped up, because I didn't watch Tucker, I didn't watch Jesse. I did listen to a lot of Fox News coverage after the attack happened on Tuesday. So I did listen to a lot of the coverage to see how they went with it, to see they were going with the terrorist more or less bent as opposed to other places, which was focusing on the mental health part of it. The fact that these 2 people and other commentary folks had the gall to put these words out in the airwaves, have them come out of their mouths, have somebody write them on a script and put them in a teleprompter, disgusts me. Truly disgusts me. There is something really, really wrong when you're playing for ratings and don't have the information, don't have the details to really go into what you have. And even if you did, would go a route of just saying, "Oh, they're just going to let this thing go because the guy that did it is black, so that's just what's happening." Those words, similar words, came out of those people's mouths on a channel where I don't believe Tucker Carlson is stupid, is crazy. I don't think he's racist or inflammatory in a sense. Maybe he is, maybe he isn't. I don't think Tucker Carlson thinks you're stupid, because that would be a travesty to have a major multimedia corporation with billions of dollars let people who manipulate people that route just because they get money out of it, although they are doing it anyway. I think Tucker Carlson just knows that certain people are going to listen to certain things, and he's just playing it up. Tucker Carlson is not a journalist, at least not in this case anymore. Jesse Waters, not a journalist, at least not in this case anymore. They're actors. They're feeding into emotions, and many people just like this. You can go back to literally depositions of people who've been caught saying inflammatory language on the airwaves because it's their job, saying things like, "Well, you can't really trust me because I'm not, I'm not a journalist. I'm just, an actor." Rush Limbaugh would famously call himself America's anchorman, and then say, "I'm just a fuzzy little warm ball of love, just saying a couple things." You can't have it both ways. If you're going to be journalistic, be journalistic. If you're going to be commentative, be commentative. But also remember, tell folks that your commentary is a thought process coming from you and a cabal of writers, not from actual facts. We will dig deeper into this one as the case goes on, because the case is extremely complicated. And oddly enough, it's a sign of being fairness that now we have black people doing the crazy things that we usually attest to, Unabombers and serial killers on that end. This is Timothy McVeigh stuff on the other spectrum. So now we got to deal with it, and we will deal with it. But now we got to deal with it. Saying we're just not going to deal with it because he's black, just like they blasted Ketanji Jackson Brown last week for being soft on crime, when in actuality she just literally gave the sentences that were asked for by the prosecutors. Moving on, Patrick Lyona. Now let's get really mad now. Patrick Lyona, police in Grand Rapids, Michigan, released video of deadly shooting at a traffic stop. CNN.com is our source for this one, and this one was all over the place too. If it weren't for the Brooklyn shooting and all that going on, this is what we'd be focused on as the big pointy thing right now. A traffic stop led to another killing of another black person. Go to CNN.com, go to wherever you want to, search the name Patrick Lyona, and we will have discussions on this later on. This is one that is really making me upset. Me and Officer Josh, who just popped on the line, we're going to have some words on this one, because you and I, both agree bad policing is bad policing, and then there's an extra step. We got to make sure that this is bad policing, which hopefully somebody will fix these guys, or figure out whether this is an extra step. We can't have a summer like last summer. We can't have a summer where we're crying out the name of Breonna Taylor's and just going over and over grief over Floyd's. We cannot do that again. We cannot do that again. We just cannot do that again. Let's move on to something that's a little more happier, actually a lot more happier. I told you I'm squeezing 7 stories in this thing, and we're going to do this by doing 2 on this slide. Clayton Kershaw pulled from Dodgers start after 7 perfect innings. New York Post had that one. Clayton Kershaw was on his way to a perfect game, 7 innings in perfectly, and the manager was like, "You're done. We're not doing this. You're out, Kershaw. Have a seat. Your next pitch, 3 games later." We'll see if he gets this close again or not, and we'll see what's going to happen going further with Clayton Kershaw already dealing early in the season. And history made again. San Francisco Giants Alyssa Nakken, who's 31 years old, makes major league history in first woman to coach on field in regular season game. Third base coach gets ejected from the game. They call in the reliever, who is Alyssa Nakken, first woman on the field. She's been with the Giants and in Major League Baseball for a bit. So history is not her being on the team. History is her literally being on the field. And one of the first things that happened, somebody, said she was cute or something like that. So because Neanderthals. ESPN.com gave us that. So right there, check out those in the rundown. Great stories to kind of cleanse the palate of the last ones as we get to more heavy news. These next two stories are reminders that serious matters are still going on, and we need to really be vigilant about what's happening. This one, CDC extends travel mask requirement to May 3rd as COVID rises. Source of this is a serious AP News, apnews.com, just the source. COVID numbers are actually rising across the nation. Now, they're not rising to early pandemic levels, but they're getting higher again. So because of that, the CDC is extending one more time a little bit the travel mask requirements for traveling indoors at airports, at bus stations, and on buses and trains and all those things. So you have to wear your mask while traveling in the public for a little bit longer per the mandate. Will it ever go away? Sure, it's going to go away as a mandate at some point. And one thing we'll live with for the next 5 years at least, maybe going on a decade, we may do like the Japanese did for a while, or I guess they probably still do that because of their air quality. There's a lot of people in Japan that just walk around with masks on in general because they had air quality issues. We may do that for a while for people who may be extra susceptible of diseases. This might be a trend that lasts as just a personal preference. You may look weird at some point, but this may be what it is. For the moment, for a few more weeks at least, you still have to wear that mask if you're taking a flight or taking a train or taking a bus. And this last one is a very serious one. This is one where we'd have like the graphic just saying, parental advisory going on. This is a reminder, as if we need a reminder, that the war in Ukraine, the occupation in Ukraine, has been going on for about 5 weeks or so. And while the anchors are still there and they're still reporting from there, and so there's still a lot of focus on what's going on in Ukraine and how Russia's dealing with things and all those things, some of these things are getting lost in other stories. So make sure you remember that this is going on and that war is hell. This headline, 9 women and girls in Bucha pregnant after systematic rape by Russian troops. NewYorkPost.com on this one. I'm not going to go deeper into the verifying sources thing. I'm just going to leave it up to the Post. You can read the story, go deeper into this one here. But we have heard in the last couple of days, as the Russians have basically pulled out of Bucha, have pulled out of various places, supposedly to regroup for a larger next wave of an assault where they're expected to be even more deadly to civilians and targets that are soft as opposed to dealing with the military forces, because the Ukrainians are a little too easy where they have news reporters from around the world just hanging out in the middle of war zones. These things get ugly. These things get bad. And when the bad guys want to get bad, the bad guys will get bad. This is just one simple piece from what we've heard of stories there. We've talked about mass graves, people being shot in the back, targeting schools and hospitals, all sorts of things that you do when you are the brutal aggressor and want to beat down your opposition. We're only into this not even 2 months. So, and people say that this conflict will go on about 5 years or so. There will be 5 years the way things are going with no resolution and just craziness going on. And part of that is because the time and age we live in, we can, internet app somebody money and they can actually use it for resources, even if they're a place where the resources are cut off. This is a strange world we live in right now. So many things happen, and I'm got a lot of conflicting emotions and a lot of things going on. Yesterday, more of a lighter day of news stuff. Believe it or not, it's been some days where there's not been a lot of things that have been all that impacting. Today was a hard day to pick things, which is why we crushed 7 stories into what should have been 5. Sorry, I had to do that and see how it worked. And it is what it is. Be mindful what's going on in the world. Being ignorant of things going on out there is not a good thing. People who say, I don't watch the news because I don't want to be sad. You need to watch the news. You need to know what's going on. And it's not about being sad. It's about being informed. Our teaser story for today, not to be light, because this is really a sign of the real sadness of humanity. A stranded dolphin dies on a Texas beach after people harassed and tried to ride it. Now, there were a handful of black stories that I really wanted to get into that, were kind of on that push. It was like, man, really? And then this one popped up and I was like, man, really? I don't think I care what you think about this story. I think we're talking about the story anyway. You do have the chance to upvote it into the realm of the top 15. So it's something that I can legitimately pull into our story. I have an idea. I have a very, very, very good idea. I'm going to bring this one up regardless anyway, because at some point we just get way too ridiculous. This one has stepped over those boundaries of lines. I should have put a adult advisory on today's video because we feel that way today. And now let's talk about putting money into my pocket to keep doing these sad, sad tales. Let's talk about Zenni Optical. Go to thisisaconversationproject.com/Zenni Optical. That may be the worst segue ever, but it happened. Zenni Optical will give you the best glasses you can find. And I'm saying that because I am a longtime customer of Zenni Optical. Starting off with the fact that the frames are inexpensive. You can get a pair of frames that start as low as $6.95. If you have kids, then you worry about the cost of their frames. You can get them from there. If you have kids who lose their frames all the time, you can get replacements. If you have adults who lose their frames all the time, this guy right here, you can get very inexpensive frames. And what is great about that is the lenses aren't like 8 inches thick. They are very good, very well put together pairs of glasses. And it's not just the inexpensive ones. I'm not going to say cheap today. Inexpensive glasses. You can also get great designer glasses, frames, and great designer tech in your glasses. Blue blocking technology, transitions technology, progressives. You can also get trifocals if you're looking for those. They have sports goggles, they have sunglasses, they have all sorts of great things for your eyeballs. So help your eyeballs and go to thisisaconversationproject.com/Zenni. This is a affiliate link, so we get a little bit from this at thisisaconversationproject.com/Zenni. Help your eyeballs, and guess what? You're going to help your wallet because these glasses are expensive, and just like the other places, if you don't like them, send them back. They'll send your money back. It works that way there as well. Our main website is thisisaconversationproject.com. Find out more about why we do this, how we do this, and how you can help us keep doing it by stopping by our partnership page and our sponsorship page. That was wrong. Our partners page, partnership and sponsorship page. You'll see that they're big old buttons, they're words, they're there. So the website. You can vote in stories. The feeds we talk about come from Facebook and Twitter. We put our stories on Facebook and Twitter. Every 50 minutes or so, we post a brand new news story. The Conversation Project is this is the Conversation Project is us on Facebook and th_conversation on Twitter. Follow us so we get that love. Then like, hate, love, share the stories as we post them along the line, and you can get a chance to upvote the stories. Tuesday through Thursday, we pull up stories from the top 15 engagement for the previous day. For Monday, we give you stories spanning the full weekend from Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and early Monday morning. We give you 7 stories, sometimes 8 stories. As many stories you give today, that's what we're supposed to give you on Monday, based on the top 30 stories, because there's 3 times as many stories popping in there. If you want to get this 5 days a week, make sure you are subscribed to either the Facebook feed at This Is a Conversation Project or thisisaconversationproject.com/YouTube, the link to our page there. We go extra big on Mondays where we give it to some expanded audience, but we only do 5 days a week for the main feed. So check that out so you do not miss out on a cast. A few more things as we wrap up on this one. April 14th birthdays. Giving it shout out love to Pete Rose, who is listed as a famous former baseball player, not a Hall of Fame player. And we all know why that is. 81 years old today, not in the Hall of Fame. Some people disagree with that. Some people say it's time to let him in. It hadn't quite happened yet. Your opinion matters. You let us know in the comments what do you think about Pete Rose going back and forth into the Hall of Fame. Peter Calabaldi, another Peter. This is a former Doctor Who. Maybe they're never a former Doctor Who. Let's say previous Doctor, if you will. 64 years old today. And Sarah Michelle Gellar, who, of course, famous for being Buffy the Vampire Slayer, although the second Buffy, if you will. 45 years old today. That should make you feel kind of old. Today is also National Ex-Spouses Day. What does that mean? This is a day where you celebrate your ex-spouse or you celebrate some sort of recognition of amicability with an ex-spouse. So if you were able to end a marriage amicably, congratulations. If you weren't, today's a day to think about how to mend some fences, if you will, with that ex. This is not a day I'm personally celebrating unless there's some papers coming to me sometime today that I don't know about. But go out there and do your best for ex-spouse day. And if ex-spouse day doesn't fit you, well, then National Beer Day was last week. Celebrate that a week late. One more thing you might not have heard. Scientists from Botanic Gardens Conservation International ran a database. It's a comprehensive list of all known tree species, and it's over 60,000 trees in the world, 60,000 different kinds of trees, with Brazil having the highest number of different species in their land. That's not hard to believe. That's a very, very vast land of trees and plants at the large scale. They've got themselves 8,761 different trees. There's not a listing for in this news story or how many trees that they had for the United States, but you can go check out the database and see for yourself. You can do some research yourself. Do your own research. Yeah, do that. Today, Thursday, April 14th, 2022. Thank you so much for joining us live, or when you see us in the future, do that as well. If you're in the future, and we appreciate that, just drop your name in the comments. Drop us a comment. Tell us how we're doing so we can say hey to you. Officer Josh, keeping the streets all safe for us out there in the deep south. Love you out there. Keep doing your great work out there. Mother-in-law Sharon and my wife, Christine with a K, also on. And like I said, hopefully she's still my wife. We'll see if we're celebrating National Ex-Spouse Day next year, because of something I may have said here. In the meantime, if you like what I say here, let me know. If you don't like what I say here, let me know. Just let me know so we can know what we can do to make this thing a little bit better or a little bit worse. We were able to squeeze in those stories, but it was a barely thing. We'll probably be better on time and better on task tomorrow. And so with that, I remind you to stay on task, also stay hydrated and stay limber, because there's a lot of things out there needing to get done. And you've got a good bit on your plate needs to get done as well. We need you to do it. We need you all here as we prepare things going on. Happy Good Friday Eve, everyone. And we will see you on tomorrow. Good Friday.